Welcome to Mortgage Sales Playbook. I'm Pat Sherlock, your host. My podcasts are where top producers, sales leaders, and industry experts share strategies that drive real sales success. No fluff, just actionable insights to help you master the art of selling and leading. Today, we're going to talk about a topic that I'm so passionate about. Hunting in the down market, the affordable housing opportunity. I have the perfect expert, Bernard Nossuli, who is CEO of iEmergent, who's well known in our industry. I love the data that they share, and I love all the postings that Bernard does. So let's talk about this topic today. But let's first of all how did you get into the business? And tell me some trends, because you're out there with lenders every day. What do you see going on in our mortgage space?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was actually kind of recruited out of college to go join Norwest Mortgage in
Okay.
Des Moines, Iowa, and I grew up in Maryland, so this was definitely foreign to me. But the person I talked to happened to be my future father-in-law, and so we Norwest acquired Wells Fargo, and then
Yeah.
after about a year, he left Wells Fargo to start iEmergent. And I like to joke that this is my third tour with the company because I was there when it was founded. He left to found iEmergent and
Sure.
then brought me over, and then I left to go back to grad school. And then by 2006, he said, "Hey, come back. We're growing." And I said, "Great." So we moved to Iowa, and just as the mortgage meltdown happened,
Sure.
so the timing wasn't great. And then, fortunately, he got sick. He needed a lung transplant, and so my wife's daughter took over as CEO overnight, and then I've been there since 2015 again. So here we are.
So you saw the good times and the bad times.
That's right. That's right. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. So, but
So talk
but no, it's
about
been great.
trends, Bernard, that you see, because you're out there. I see you speak all the time. I love your data that you post. Talk about what are you seeing in this year in the lender space before we kind
Yeah,
of get into the topic.
Yeah, recently it's come to my attention. It feels like, with the change in administration, that it seems like IMBs, specifically, not all of them, but certain IMBs have kind of shied away from diverse markets,
Mhm.
specifically, and kind of said, you know what, this is maybe not for us, or hey, we're not looking to focus on this right now, and so they've kind of exited the space. Now, this is very short-sighted, I believe,
Yeah.
because obviously the demographic trends are here to stay, and by I think it's by 2050, the minority will be the majority. So, especially in housing. So
Sure.
there was another statistic from Housing Urban Institute that said over the next decade, so from 2020 to 2030, there would
Yeah.
be 855,000. No, excuse me. There would be 7.5 million new households formed over the decade, and
Right.
of those, 500,000 would be white, and so which leaves the rest to fill out that the rest of that equation, and so the demographics are trending in a specific direction, and lenders who are not serving all those markets, will be behind.
Well, let's talk about it more in detail because I know you do wonderful data analysis on this market. And so it is a mystery of life to me why lenders don't see this as an opportunity. Certainly on the depository side, they have to somewhat have that focus, but likewise on the independent mortgage side, it just is an opportunity not served. So, what is the data? What type of markets are you seeing that, in particular, growth cities where it does look like? When the analysis is done, not only is the demographics there, but the income level is there to qualify.
Yeah, I was actually looking, and I'm getting a little presentation out here, some slides that I'd prepared. But there, I was looking at just 2024 HMDA data, and looking at some of the hottest markets with at least $2 billion of purchase markets, or
Correct.
of purchase originations, right? Purchase volume. And so well, I was looking at this, and we're looking at of the top, let's say,
Mhm.
13, five of them are in California. No surprise there.
Sure.
That there's still been, some home appreciation. But not only do we see California, we see places like Dayton, Ohio, we see Portland, Maine, we see Seattle, Washington, we see Madison, Wisconsin. So not all coastal, areas where there was double-digit growth in terms of purchase volume from 23 to 24, and we
Yeah.
see that continuing into the next few years.
So it doesn't see it. The perception is that it is coastal, or maybe or it is southern as the opportunities. But you're really seeing it really selectively across the country in different spots.
Yeah, that's right. And just like, mortgages are local, these hotspots are region dependent, and not all regions behave the same way.
So what is when you look at it from an income component, do you stratify for that end of it? Because it's always this issue, and maybe the perception is they don't qualify or there's some issue that doesn't have the loan go forward. Is it the income issue or is it the housing price issue that really seems the real driver of whether the affordable housing market will be a focus by lenders?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little of both, and unfortunately, we also, when we analyze HMDA in terms of the applications and denials and things like that,
Yeah,
we see that, minority or diverse borrowers are getting denied at a higher rate than lower income white borrowers. That's just the data. That's the information that we're seeing.
wow. Hmm.
And so it's going to take, all of us, whether we're lenders, whether we're in the industry, but to address this issue in order to make sure that everyone is being served.
So when you look at it in the big picture, and you've seen it over all these years, is it the issue that the loan isn't getting sourced at all? Or is the issue the loan is being sourced, but they get denied, as you just indicated, where that rate of denial is higher than, let's say, white borrowers? So what is it where is the point that really seems to be the critical problem?
Yeah, well, it's kind of twofold. There are certain institutions where you can look visually on any map or any of their markets
Yeah,
and see where they are actually lending, and you can see that they're doing a great job. They have tons of
yeah,
volume, and at the same time, they are maybe ignoring or maybe not reaching out to certain
yeah.
areas or certain markets within their specific footprint. But also at the same time, yeah, there's some denial reasons for whatever,
Mhm.
usually debt to income is usually the number one reason. Um, but
Yeah.
for whatever the case is, the numbers are pointing to, hey, there's something going on where this
Mhm.
segment of borrowers is getting denied at a higher rate.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm asking from my standpoint. It does seem to me the center of the problem, which people don't really talk about, starts with the loan officer and the profile of the loan officer. And the loan officer world, even today, even with all of our technology, is still a center of influence world. And so if you have a majority of white loan officers, you're not going to have them necessarily sourcing outside of their center of influence. Is that a fair statement?
I would say, certain borrowers, maybe as a generalization, borrowers like to do business with lenders
They
that look like
will.
them, right?
Right.
But at the same time, that doesn't mean that white LOs aren't serving some of these diverse markets. They are for
Sure.
sure.
Right.
I think it's just an overall approach, a mindset. I hear a lot of lenders say, well, we don't have a problem. And anyone who walks through the door will fund. And
It's the
it's
walking
like,
through the door.
that's exactly right. It's like, well, not everyone's walking through that door, and sometimes you have to go and be proactive and do some of that outreach in some of the areas where maybe you necessarily wouldn't do that usually.
So I thought when the court case of Trident Mortgage, the Warren Buffett company, where they were sued and all of this was a big deal, that that would have had lenders really concerned about this topic. But it really hasn't moved, really, in my perception, not that much better. And so how do you kind of see the lenders that get it? What is it that they're doing? And what is it that seems to be working? Which to me is kind of the key. The success stories I think we need to tell more about.
Well, to that point, to the Trident point, though, I did have a reaction at the time, especially with somebody not necessarily like a Trident, but what sticks out is a Fairway, and I think Fairway
Yeah.
was fined. I think it was $9 million for actions in Birmingham, Alabama,
Yeah.
and the idea there is, yeah, $9 million. That's a huge amount on a relative basis. When you're talking
Correct.
about
Yeah.
Fairway Mortgage, it is not a large amount.
Yeah.
And
Correct.
therefore, it becomes a cost of doing business. It
Correct.
is, okay, we're going to do this. Yep. If we get fined, great, but we're still going to be profitable in that market. And we're going to go after the borrowers we want to go after.
So Bernard, talk about what you see with lenders to get it, and what are they doing that makes them successful? And obviously, it's different for every lender, but I'm curious on what is it that's working that seems to be a success profile.
Yeah, I think the main point is the data is available today to be very surgical and very selective about
Okay,
how to go after specific borrower segments. And
sure.
so the successful lenders are able to, let's just pick Atlanta, to go after, let's say, African American borrowers in Atlanta, not in the entirety of Atlanta, but
Right.
instead in the South. There's almost a U to the south of downtown Atlanta where, hey, this is the majority of African American borrowers, and this is your best opportunity to reach that segment. And so therefore, we're going to use the information to not only find out which loan officers are specifically already doing the business in that
Mhm.
U, but also which agents are listing properties in that same area. And again, it's very, very targeted, very surgical. But then to go beyond that and to see, all right, so I know the loan officers, I know the LOs. What is the inventory in this area? What is for sale? What are properties are out
Right.
there?
Mhm.
And then finally, the last piece is, to your point, you talked about some community partners, and the idea is what places of worship, what schools, what hospitals, what VA centers, what libraries are in those specific neighborhoods where you can partner with those community partners or centers of influence, and then be in the best position to reach those end borrowers.
So your data goes down that far then. That's what you're saying. So you can say the libraries within a town. Is that really one of the latest kind of innovations that have made in the data? Because I think at one point the data was really pretty global. Now it seems very specific.
Yeah, it's going more. It's allowing us to be, so it's allowing us to take the strategy of, hey, how are we going to lend in this market, to
Hmm.
down to the tactical of, okay, we realize that we want to lend in this market, and then it's specifically where and the
Hmm.
who and what communities and what areas or what partnerships are we going to use to be able to reach the folks we're trying to reach. So it's absolutely critical to be able to match the idea of, hey, mortgage is local with the
Hmm.
data that allows you to
Yeah.
get to that local spot.
So are you sourcing other data besides HMDA data? Or it sounds like you must be because to get all this other components to it. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously HMDA is there, and we use HMDA, Bureau of Labor Statistics, and some other sources in order to inform our forecast. We still have some forecasting in order to let our clients know, hey, if you're going to be focusing on a specific market, here is where the growth is going to be over the next year, 2 years, 3 years. That's one. But to your point, we also use MLS data to find out some of the properties and the inventory. And then, we have some IRS data to find about some of those community partners that are
Yeah.
in specific areas and so on. And so when you layer all of those and you bring them together visually, it starts telling the story of, oh, okay, well, this is what we need to do in this specific market, not only to reach this borrower or this segment, but also maybe these other three that happen to be there at the same time, or within the same market, here's a different area for segment one, here's a different area for segment two, and here's where we are in segment three. Let's make sure that we are serving all of those.
So talk about for our listeners today, they're just thinking about this market, which I'm not sure why they haven't thought about it before, but let's say that they haven't. And what's usually the first step when you're going into a lender? Is that normally the case? Like, well, I don't really know. I'm in this market. I've been in a land, an example, but they really don't know all the nitty gritty. And
Yeah.
so what normally looks like that engagement, and where is it? Is it at the board of directors level, or is it down at the senior level, or is it people that just want volume and they're trying to find it? I'm curious on what you see.
Yeah, I mean, it can start at the senior level saying,
Mhm.
okay, for the following 12 months, we want to focus on these three
Yeah.
markets specifically, right? And so once they've identified the three markets, or we can help them identify the 3 or 5 or 10 markets where they want to spend their resources, it's okay, let's take one of those markets and let's identify where you are located relative to the opportunity.
Mhm.
And then from there, it's where have you been originating? So you can, the reason to do that visually is so we can see the market, we can see their branch footprint, and we can
Correct.
see their originations. And once you do that, you can immediately see where they are lending, but just
Mhm.
as importantly, where they're not lending. And so you
Correct.
identify these gaps in coverage, and from there, it's saying, okay, is this, now that we know, is this an issue for us or not? And if it
Right.
is, how do we address it? And with those the same resources, whether it's hey, do we just have to reorient our existing loan officers? Do we have to recruit new loan officers? Do we have
Right.
to open branches closer to this opportunity?
So where, Bernard, do you see the lenders stumbling? In other words, again, normally, is it a matter of like they have to reorientate themselves, or it's just a market that they've been in, but they're not in that sector? I mean, where is it that you usually see it falling?
Well, part of the issue, and this is the reason why, iEmergent was founded, was this lack of forward-looking thinking and forward-looking data,
Yeah.
because this is a transactional industry. It's, oh, let's
Correct.
go find the loans. And so the traditional solution has been, oh, we just need to find loan officers that do loans in that area.
Correct.
And that's not enough. That's not a strategy by itself. I had heard at a recent conference that it was the process was, the cycle was recruit, retain, repeat. And that, again, I cringe when I hear that, because number one, the attrition, the turnover in this industry at the LO level is still within the 30 to 40%
Yeah.
annually, right? And when it costs over 156,000 per LO, if they were to leave after 2 years, that was a study we had done 10 years ago at this point. That quickly adds up. That is not a sustainable model by itself. So it's kind of changing the mentality and saying, okay, yes, these are transactions, but at the same time, these are homes, these are people. And so
Yeah.
we want to create those relationships. We want to create lasting bonds with our customer. And so if you start thinking about it that way, and you look at the community partners across the
Yeah.
market, then you can say, okay, we are going to have this approach. It's going to be a 2 to 5 year approach, so that we gain the trust of those segments we are trying to reach. And it's not just thanks, let's have a transaction today, and I never speak to you again.
Well, I'm with you on that one. I have to have you come back and share more data, because I do think the numbers are just daunting when you look at, this issue about unprofitability and why wouldn't you go into these markets, and why we need to change our mindsets on some of the things that we consider that market's unprofitable, because I think there's a lot of that perception that it is, and that's not true. So we're down to the last few minutes. So Bernard, what would you say are maybe two takeaways for our listeners today about why this is a market they should be into and how they can, get a hold of you to discuss data?
Yeah, I mean, again, once they prioritize their market, it's being able to see
Yeah.
where they are lending. Do they have those gaps in coverage? Are they not serving specific areas of the market? And again, that's the basic, that's the foundation, that's the step one. Then with anything, we could help them get down to their actual hum to performance and look at the number of applications, and
Yeah.
then denials, and then go from there, to really see, is there another problem at play here? Is there something else going on? But again, the real takeaway is whether it's us or anybody else, use data and make sure that you are very localized about it, that you're very granular and intentional about where you're spending your resources.
Yeah,
Um,
I have to have you come back and share maybe the top five or top three growth areas that you see, because I just think this is a marketplace that we need to, every loan counts. And so we need to expand our thinking. So I appreciate really sharing everything with us today. How can they get a hold of you if they'd like to
yeah,
discuss?
yeah, absolutely. They can go to, I know, pointing in the wrong direction. They can go to iEmergent.com.
Yeah,
And from there, there's at the top, I think top right of the page, there's a request a demo button, and basically that sends me an email to say, hey, let's talk. So or it's Nossuli, Nossuli at iEmergent.com, right there, and happy to have conversations just to say, hey, what can I do with our data to get more loans?
and so I know you're speaking at a conference in August. Talk about that.
Oh, yes, that's the NAMBA conference,
Sure.
with in Orlando, Florida, I think August 21st, 22nd. Tony Thompson's organization,
Sure.
wonderful organization there, and great. They know how to put on a great conference. And yeah, I'm looking forward to having a session about, it's kind of a case study with one of our clients with
Yeah.
Movement Mortgage and Montel Watson, and I'm really looking forward to that session because he's wonderful. He has a great energy and very knowledgeable about all things mortgage.
Well, we love to hear that, and love to hear. I would say all listeners go listen to what Bernard has to say, because I think it's really important. So I want to thank you for sharing your thoughts today, and certainly sharing all this great information. And our listeners, certainly, if you would like to subscribe, go to patsherlock.com, and we issue every week a new podcast. Thanks so much, Bernard.
Pat, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for inviting me.
That's a wrap for this episode. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your team. Want more proven sales strategies? Visit patsherlock.com for expert resources, coaching, and sales training. Until next time, keep selling smarter and not harder.